problem 21 of Neetcode 150, valid parentheses. So in this problem, we're going to be given a string with parentheses. And what we have to check is that for every opening brackets, we need to have its matching closing brackets. And also the open brackets must be closed in the correct order. So like in example 2, you can see that you can see an example of the brackets being closed in the correct order, where whereas in the example 3 you can see that all the brackets are not closed in a correct order, right? Because between the two brackets, we have closing square brackets, which is kind of odd. So um, this is something we're gonna have to look for and return false if we have this in our inputs. Cool. So this is the example 2 that we were given. And now we'll go through the solutions. So for this problem, we'll use a stack. And the logic is super simple. For every element in the string, so this is our string, for every element, if it is closing brackets, we're going to have to take the last or the top element of the stack and see if it matches with the closing brackets that we have. If we don't have a closing brackets, we're just going to add the, the brackets to the stack because it means that we have an opening bracket. Okay, so now we're going to go see the second element. It is an opening bracket, so we're going to add it to the stack. Same thing here, we have an open curly brackets. And now we're at a point where we have a closing brackets. So when we have a closing brackets, we're gonna have to pop one element of the stack, and this is why we use a stack, because in a stack, we're using the principle of last in, first out. So the last in was the open curly brackets, and you can see that both match. They are a combo, so it works. Let's see if it works for the next index in the string, which is closing square brackets. So again, we have a closing bracket, so we're gonna pop the top element of the stack, and we see that they still match, right? And we're gonna do the same for the last bracket. We're gonna pop the sole and last element here, and they match. All right. So what is a counterexample to this rule? Let's see this now. So if we have this situation, okay. So if we have this situation, we're first gonna add the first element to the stack because it is not a closing bracket. We're gonna do the same thing for the curly brackets and for the square brackets. But after this, we have a closing bracket, so we have to pop the top element of the stack and see if they match. But in this case, we have an opening curly bracket. We have an opening square brackets with a closing curly brackets, so they don't match. So in this case, you will return false. All right. So let's go ahead and write the code. We first want to create our stack. And now we want to have a dictionary of brackets, just like in this example. So we'll call it brackets. And it's going to be a dictionary where the keys will be the closing brackets. and the value their corresponding um, open bracket. Okay. All right, we're good to go. And then we're going to go through every single bracket in the string of brackets. So I'm going to say for C in S. And we want to check basically if C is a closing bracket. To do so, we will say if C is in brackets, because by doing so, we'll check all the keys, and so we're gonna know whether we have a closing brackets or not. So um, all right, so we're gonna say if C in brackets. In this case, you want to see the last element of the stack is equal to the value of the key, right? So the value of the key um, is going to be an open bracket. So we want to see if the last element is actually the open bracket that match the closing brackets that we have. So we're going to say first if stack, because it is possible that the very first bracket in our string is actually a closing bracket. So this is something you want to be accountable for. So we're going to take the last element, so stack -1. And if this is equal to the closing bracket, so brackets, right? So this is how we check if the brackets that we just put in our stack, so the top element is the same as the value of the key, and the key is the closing brackets. So if this is true, we're just gonna pop an element of the stack, so stack.pop, and by doing so we remove the top element of the stack. If they are not the same, well, it must mean that there's a mismatch, so we're simply going to return false. Okay, and now for every C and S, well, C might not be a closing bracket, in which case we just want to do stack dot append C. So we're gonna append the open brackets to the stack, and at the end we are supposed to be left with an empty stack, right? If there is still an open bracket in the stack, it must mean that there is a mismatch, because we're missing that closing bracket. So we're gonna have to return through if not stack. So if there's nothing in the stack, otherwise we are gonna return false. Good. And I forgot my. All right. So this was problem 21 of Neetcode 150's valid parentheses. I hope you learned from this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.